ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got my Z-Force 950 HOEX. If you're familiar with the channel, you've seen this unit several times. Mr. Harmon just pulled it in the shop here at Main Street Cycle. We're getting ready to go to Windrock in November, and we're going to be riding with Adrenaline Junkie, Justin Drake, Mississippi Trail Riders, and it's going to be a good time. So we got to make sure it's ready to show out and conquer all the real famous trails at Windrock. I know we're going to hit Trail 16, we're going to hit Walden's Ridge, which is Trail 43, and then possibly we're going to take on Trail 15 before we leave. So looking forward to that. But what we're about to do is we're going to install some parts that you of course can get at teammscparts.com, or you can come in-house at Main Street Cycle. We're going to be installing some stuff in the rear. We're going to be installing some stuff up in the front, and it has to do with suspension. And no, it's not the shocks itself. It's going to be the rear radius rods. We're going to be installing the Misfit Garage High clearance rear radius rods, and they are powder coated yellow to match the cage up here and my wrap. And this is actually lime squeeze, and that's what we got on the rear radius rods, as well as, oh, I ain't told you about what we're doing up front. So we got our Misfit Garage rear radius rods. They're the high clearance ones. We've installed some before, but I've been itching to get my own for my unit, and we're going to put them on, and that's going to give me an advantage out there at Windrock, crawling over the rocks and different technical terrain. But then we also have our Moorhead off-road engineering front A-arms, and these are also lime squeeze, and you can get these at teammscparts.com exclusively. Boom, monster, son. So this is forward offset, high clearance, and it may allow for something just a tad bit bigger up front. So we're still debating on that. Joel's saying I probably need to stick with this. We'll see, I don't know. But we've got 32-inch Rockzillas. These are not the competition or the super stickies. These are just the regular ones. And for those of you that do this type of riding, look, I've been riding them for a little bit, and I've been on pavement, and they just, as far as the tread depth is the same. You can definitely tell I'm eating up the edge just a hair, not much at all. But as far as the depth, you know, it's not wearing out yet at all. But I know that when we go to super stickies, it's definitely gonna wear quicker. So we'll see. I know that super stickies are definitely the way to go when you're riding at places like Windrock, because if you don't have the super stickies, these are a lot stiffer, and they're not going to grab and crawl up the rocks like the super stickies will. We already have videos dedicated for installation purposes. I'll actually put a link to those videos down in the description of this video. That way, if you just want to watch how to install the front arms that I'm going to be installing, you can follow that video. If you want to just install the rear radius rods, the high clearance ones, you can go follow that video as well. So Harmon's removing the rear tires here. We had to remove my back cage, and that was so that we can get to these bolts here. Of course, if you have a stock cage, you're not going to have to worry about that. So you're just going to remove these, okay? We're going to get these off. Look how much bigger this is. Monster. These are a lot tougher than stock, and they're going to be able to handle an absolute beating, okay? And we'll be able to adjust them, as well as being able to adjust our rear radius rods and have higher clearance. So that's going to be nice, y'all, and it's going to look really good. We have the driver's side complete. We have left the radius rods, and we've got our toe link removed. That way you can't get anything confused. So he removed it, and he's actually going to take a bolt over here to the stock one, because we know that factory it was lined up pretty much perfect. So he's put a bolt in on this side. You've got left-handed thread, that's what this notch is for. And he's going to move it out until the bolts line up perfectly. And then you know that you've got it just right. So he's going to line that up, put the jam nut down, and then we will install it and then lock it down in place after we get everything lined up. All right, one thing you want to do before you start lining these up, especially with having the left-hand thread, you want to start out with running everything down flush, so that way you got the same size or the same amount of threads inside of your rod there. So then we can sit there and twist it out until it lines up to the OEM setting. So you see that? We're going to be a little short. We're going to put the bolt in. And this is just a little trick to do if you're doing this by yourself. It's just twisting that out. That bolt's holding it in place. And then it's going to go until it lines up perfectly and the bolt goes in. And we still have plenty of thread left. And these are super, super strong. All the specs and details on these are in my original installation video with Joel. Now he's gonna put the jam nut down, and then we're gonna bring it over and install it. It's gonna be right-handed threads on both ends, because these are primarily supposed to be fixed. You do all your adjustment off the top rod, and then also your toe on your toe link. So this one's supposed to be fixed in a primary position. So he's ran them both all the way in, and since these are right, you can't just twist the bar. We're going to actually start the same position and go half turns at a time. That way you keep the same amount on each end. So he's going to come out until, and we'll check it periodically and make sure it lines up. You can do the bolt trick if just to check it, completely up to you. But we're going to get it just right and then go install it on the machine. All right, now we're going to get the lower arm in place. He's just using that bolt as leverage to get that heim joint lined up and centered. There we go. When no load is on them, you got them jacked up, they have room to move, because it is an arched arm, so there's a bend in it, and you're going to see that. That's normal. Don't freak out about it, because your straight arm can do the same thing. So no big deal there. We're just going to get it all lined up and hold it in place where these don't twist, so that way when we tighten our jam nut down, these are still going vertical and not cocked all the way over to one side. And that way they have room to move as they're supposed to. All right, the rear is complete. Now we're going up to the front, and we're going to remove the front tires. Going to start removing all the front suspension, get the Moorhead off-road engineering front arms and put them on. And we'll show you just a few highlights of that as well. Then we're going to set her down and see what it looks like. You got to make sure that you get the right arm for the right side. But you can see here we've got about 2 inches of forward offset, and your shock mount position needs to be lined up. Your shock's going to come in at an angle. You'll see that here in just a second. And you get your 2 inches of forward offset, and you'll know you got the right one. So we're going to put that in, and we'll go over it once we get it all on. Again, we have a full video on this install, and I'll link it at the end or down in the description of this video. So you have your bushings, of course, and also you have a metal sleeve or two, and your bolt goes through that metal sleeve. And one thing that you probably really need to do on the sleeve part where the bolt is inserted through is put you a little grease in that tube. Now he used some red grease spray. All right, and that's just going to help when water and stuff gets in there. It's going to help keep that bolt seasoned up inside of that tube. And then when you're removing it, say you have an older one, you've been mud riding and creek riding and stuff, and you're going to try to pull it out, it's probably going to seize up on you. You ain't going to be able to get that bolt out. And one thing to do with that is hold the tube. Once you get it out enough to be able to get slide the A-arm itself out at an angle, you can then grab some vice grips, hold the tube, and just run that bolt as fast as you can with the impact. Heat that thing up and it'll make it where you can move it in and out. You can get the sleeve off then, and don't think that you have to replace it. I mean, unless it's bad enough, then you have to. It could be salvageable. Hard to say that word. Anyways, you could do that by just doing like we said, clean the inside of it out, and then put some red grease in there as you are putting your bolt through, and that will preserve it for, you know, time to come. And then once you get your bushings in, of course you need to grease your bushings, your A-arms, quite often, and you should be good to go. But we're going to tighten this down, and that was just a little tip that old Harmon was talking to me about just a moment ago off camera. And we're going to get this all tightened up, bolted up. We have it set down now. Mr. Harmon is greasing up the grease zerks for the bushings. And then we got to wipe those arms down, and we got to scrub it out. We just let it down off the lift, so it's kind of a little off just a little bit. But once we roll it out and it scrubs out like it's supposed to be, she's going to be sitting right, son. So we got a little more forward offset. We got some super beefy heavy duty A-arms. A little bit later on, I'm going to replace and go to our heavy duty tie rods. Just ran out of time today. And then we may have a different tire setup, a little bit bigger tire setup. Before we go to Windrock, we'll talk about that in another video. But we definitely got a little more reach out here. Before, the bumper would just about hit before the tires, or actually it would. Now I've got a little bit of forward offset now, 2 inches, and now my tires are actually going to hit the obstacle now, so that's going to be good, especially out there in the rocks. I like it. And then my bumper protects all the front end and the plastics, the radiator. So looking good, guys. Really excited. We're gonna get this thing wheeled out, and then we'll take one more look at it and close this video out. Well, guys, the install is complete. We've got the Moorhead Off-Road Engineering front A-arms, upper and lower, of course. And we've got the Misfit Garage high clearance rear radius rods with the rear toe link adjustment. So we've got a ton of extra strength in our suspension components, and we can also do adjustments if we go with different types of tires, bigger tires, get it set up just the way we want it. And yeah, I mean, this is an absolutely awesome setup. Plus we got the lime squeeze to match the cage and the color scheme on the front and rear. So yeah, you can get that same color setup from teammscparts.com. Both of these parts are exclusive to teammscparts.com, or you can buy on location at Main Street Cycle. But anyhow, guys, we're going to wrap this video up. We're going to go do some testing, and like I said, I've still got to clean it up a little bit. Sometimes when you're taking the bushings out and all that, you get grease, and I got to clean up some excess. We were just trying to hurry and get out of here, but it's time for the weekend, time to go ride. What do y'all think of this unit? What else does it need? I know we're about to do something different with the tires now that we got even more clearance. It's extended our wheelbase. We got more ground clearance overall with the high clearance setup. We've got the Team MSC tender springs, and we're probably going to adjust that up a little bit for Windrock to get maximum clearance. So yeah, what should we do next? Remember, those of you that are tuning in and maybe you haven't seen this build, it's got the Team MSC Stage 3 Trail Clutch Kit, Team MSC Tune. We've got our Team MSC Roll Cage, Team MSC Graphics Kit, the skid plate, the tender springs, whip light, sound system, hand grips. Golly, just a ton of stuff. But you can get every bit of this at teammscparts.com. Oh yeah, our harnesses, CFMOTO bag, all this can be bought teammscparts.com. Y'all have heard enough from me today. Hope you enjoyed this video. God bless y'all. As always, remember to keep it real. We'll see you in the next one.